Hi, and welcome to the Home Video Emporium. I'm your host, my name is Brendan, and with this series what I hope to do is to catalog my entire collection of home video titles and determine which of these movies still belongs amongst my elite and esteemed collection, needs to be preserved for many years still to come, and which of these movies unfortunately may need to be purged to free up a little shelf space, as I am still looking to add future movies to the collection and have run out of a little room here on the shelves. So by the end of the series, we're looking to get rid of about 30 to 50 movies, and if nothing else, this is a great time and excuse to watch some movies we may not have seen in a while, and hopefully enjoy them all together. Today's episode is 2016's The Handmaiden by director Park Chan-Wook. Film is based on The Fingersmith by Sarah Waters and stars Kim Tae-rae and Kim Mi-hee. In our previous episode, for those of you watching, we discussed director Park's previous movie, Stoker, which was his English language debut. And unfortunately, in that episode, I discussed some of the issues I had with that film. So, a few years later, here Park is once again working in South Korea. And, even though I did have issues with the last movie, I was still very excited. He's obviously back in his native language. So I was, hoping this was going to be a massive return to form from director Park Chan-Wook. I saw this movie at the landmark Sunshine Theater in Manhattan. Little did I know at the time that this would be the final movie that I would see at that theater, as they went out of business about a year, less than a year later. I saw it, towards the end of 2016, and I think by sometime in 2017 they were unfortunately closed. And they were a great theater. I went there for many years. For a while there, when I was living in New York, I was in pretty close proximity to the theater, and I saw some midnight movies there, and I had a lot of great times. I saw plenty of bad movies there too. I saw Dario Argento's The Mother of Tears, which was a bit of a catastrophe there for Dario. But, it's one of those great theaters. You walk in, they have postcards, they have flyers for all the different movies. They may have props and wardrobes from current and past movies. They actually sold DVDs there. And they had, little cafes and places you could hang out. If you got to the movies early, they had copies of the Village Voice, which was a free newspaper. You could kind of read there. So it was a really fun place to hang out and to watch movies. And I had a lot of great memories there. And I miss the place. It's been gone for about 10 years now. So we still have some other, art house theaters in Manhattan and, all over New York, and not so much in New Jersey. But it was definitely a theater where, I had a ton of great experiences. And, independent theaters closing are obviously a bit of a detriment to the film side in general, because where you can see a lot of more, international films and some, obviously smaller budget stuff. So Landmark Sunshine Theater, you were fondly missed, but what a great way to go out. This was the last movie I ever saw there. It was a packed house, and they had a downstairs theater, which was their big theater. That's where I saw this. It was, as far as I could tell, it was completely sold out, jam-packed crowd. And I thought pretty much from start to finish the movie was tremendous. It was everything that, the complaints I may have had about Stoker, none of those issues exist in this. It's director Park doing 7 or 8 different genres all at once. The movie was hilarious. It's great comedy. It's a great thriller, an erotic thriller. It's a noir. It's a historical period piece that's set in the 1930s. Amongst, cultural kind of differences there by Korea and Japan. And I think it was with gorgeous set design, gorgeous outfits. Although all the, especially the 4 main actors were all, in top form. And I actually haven't seen any of them since, but, tremendous acting. So I when I left the theater after seeing this, I was just so exuberant. Not just because this is a very rare Park Chan-Wook movie with a happy ending, but it was such a great filmmaking experience. And I remember around that time, and a friend of mine, we were walking just down the street, probably a little bit before this, and he asked, "Do you think movies are getting worse?" And I kind of thought about it, and it didn't seem like there were that many great movies just being made anymore. They were all just kind of okay. They were all maybe 8 out of 10s. There was always that one little thing that was just kind of missing. And this movie really reassured me about the great power of cinema. It's a it is a great story that was based on a novel here that I also read. I read the novel after seeing the the movie. I was not familiar with Sarah Waters. I've read several of her novels since then. Affinity, which is also a excellent novel, which has a very mediocre film adaptation. But the filmmaking of this, he's not. This is, again, he's not doing the crazy, flashy stuff we may have talked about in Old Boy and in Lady Vengeance. This is, I mean, you could call it reserved compared to those movies. It's still much more technically virtuoso than 99% of the other movies you're seeing, with the incredible swooshing camera movements, the blocking, the staging, the focus out of focus, so ultimately I was I don't know why I'm late. I'm sorry, I'm a little tired, but obviously I was very this guy still has it. Stoker. Maybe English language has kind of got him a little out of his depth there. The DVD here, which I have, there really is nothing to talk about in special features. Perhaps the theme of this series, I need to buy a multi-region, Blu-ray player, as there is a multi-regional, a Region 2 version of The Handmaiden that does have an extended cut, which sounds very exciting. So both with The Handmaiden and Old Boy, I'm clearly missing out not having a multi-regional DVD or Blu-ray experience. Even though I didn't have anything of this, I did re-listen to the Q&A with Jeff Goldsmith's podcast before doing this episode, where he discusses with Park Chan-Wook the writing aspect of this. And the film, just like the novel, is basically broken down into 3 main sections. And the movie here, he completely changes the third part. The first 2 are pretty similar, with some minor differences. And then part 3, he just completely abandons the novel and does his own thing. He kind of explains that the reason why he did that was he wanted the 2 main female protagonists to come together by choice and to team up on their own will. Whereas if you read the novel, they do wind up in the same place at the end, but it's basically a situation that kind of brings them there. The character in the novel, Sue, she returns to the house kind of for revenge for being betrayed, and that way Maud, the lady, she's just there as well. And so they, after there's a whole bunch of more stuff that happens there, but they do wind up together at the end. Whereas in this one, it's the 2 women who eventually do kind of join together and conspire together. One of my issues, though, I will say about that is the death scene of the Count in the novel. I think he gets really bad. He kind of gets the really rough ending for this guy, where he's getting his fingers chopped off and everything. Even though he is, he's kind of a sleazeball and he is a thief. The 2 women were, conspiring with him for a large majority of the story. They obviously both, at a certain point together, they both decide they don't want to, work in this scheme together and want to just do more work together, where he is very much against that. But at the same time, both women were complicit in the scheme for quite a while. And, obviously they need to kind of get him with the uncle so that he can hopefully kill the uncle for them and they can get away safely. But, he is as sleazy as he is, he's an entertainingly sleazy character. So it is a shame to see what happens with him. And, excuse me, again, everything, this is Park Chan-Wook. We're in a period piece. The costumes are beautiful. The set piece is beautiful. This is set around 1930s in Korea, where the uncle character is really influenced by Japanese style. So you have a little mixture of cultures there. And I've watched the, even though the movie is long, so I don't watch it a ton, I do still revisit the movie, maybe twice a year, just to revisit the incredible storytelling. Some of my favorite filmmaking flourishes by director Park are scenes where characters are trying to enter and exit the library. The first one where the handmaiden, Suki, she tries to enter it. And the creepy uncle, he starts yelling, "Snake, snake!" And the camera pans down. You see the metal snake just guarding the library, and the lady reaches over and she pulls the steel gate back. And it's just such a crazy sequence that you don't see coming. And I remember everyone in the theater was laughing at that just because it's so unexpected. And then later in the second part, during the flashback, where the lady's, her aunt is trying to escape the library, And the metal snake is in the foreground. You can see her running in the background, and then the uncle, his ex-wife, kind of closes the door and traps her in. So the library, you're both prevented from entering the library of knowledge, as the uncle likes to pretend it. But once you enter it, you kind of get trapped in there. So that was again just tremendous storytelling there. I was looking, for the great Park Chan-Wook match cut in this. Nothing really came to mind. His editing obviously is very great because, all the storyboarding, all the planning ahead. I guess one of my favorite edits is you see there's a flashback to the Hideko, the lady character, and where she is in the basement, and you can hear the great sound design of the octopus in the tub, even though you can't see him, and it's kind of like a cross dissolve into her in the present time, which I thought was really effective about her, flashing back, still reliving those memories of that horrific time in her childhood. So this is, even though this was a kind of, more prestige thing, this did get, it was not rated in the U.S. They just didn't bother to pass it to the ratings board. So, again, you had to be like 18 or whatever to see it. So it had the kind of scandalous nature to it. But still, in the United States, a lot of the awards did not really embrace this movie, unfortunately. It got some nomination at the BAFTA. I think it won like Best International Film at the BAFTA Awards. But in all the major award ceremonies in the United States, this was completely ignored, where I thought this was going to be really Park Chan-Wook's really big transition into to mainstream, even maybe not mainstream popularity as far as box office. I wasn't expecting a unrated Korean language film to do gangbusters at the theater, but I really was expecting him at least to get a Best Director nomination. But unfortunately, he was shut out. I don't know why. They've still yet to nominate him, despite the fact that I think his last 3 movies should have easily been nominated in several categories, which they were not. So, despite the fact that this is a much more, I don't know if you want to say mature, but a highbrow kind of a movie experience, and maybe the Vengeance trilogy and Thirst, a mainstream American awards recognition still did not, unfortunately, see this as the incredible movie that it is. And if I ever do get a multi-region Blu-ray player, which I really should, I will definitely, The Handmaiden is definitely what I'm going to get, so I can see that the extended cut of what that could be. But as it is, the movie's 2.5 hours long. There's obviously quite a lot to it. And yeah. So, have you seen The Handmaiden? What do you think? How does it rank amongst Park Chan-Wook's movies? And were you thinking it was going to get Academy Award nominations, or was I just crazy in thinking that? You let me know. We've got one more Director Park movie to go. That's going to be our next episode. And from there, we're going to move on. So, hopefully you've been enjoying this series and are going to keep on watching. And I've got a lot of more movies to go. So, the shelf is still jam-packed with movies I need to review. So we're making our way slowly but steadily, and hopefully you guys are along for the ride with me. So until next time, be kind and rewind to each other, and remember, it's not a true home without home video. Thank you. Goodbye.